Where you choose to live, inside the city limits or out in the county, can make a pretty big difference in what you'll be paying every single year. Thinking about buying a home in Wake County and wondering how property taxes actually work here? Well, buckle up, because they're not as straightforward as you might think. Hey everyone, it's Sam Coe with Dream Team Realty Group. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all things residential real estate in Wake County and North Carolina. Let's start with the basics. Property taxes in Wake County are officially due on September 1st every year. But here's the part a lot of homeowners miss. If you don't pay by January 5th of the following year, your bill is considered late. And at that point, interest and penalties start piling on, and it can even turn into a lien on your property if it goes unpaid. So yes, September 1st is the due date, but January 5th is really your drop dead date to pay before it gets expensive. And keep in mind here, if you have a mortgage on the property, you'll be receiving the tax bill notification, but your mortgage lender will be paying the bill on your behalf. That comes from the escrowed funds they've collected with your mortgage payment throughout the year. Now here's where things have changed. Wake County is moving to reassess property values every 2 years in January. It used to be every 8 years, every 4, and now every 2. So why have we seen this change? Because our real estate market here has been growing so quickly. When reassessments happened only every 8 years, property values would skyrocket way beyond their last assessed number. So that meant big tax hikes all at once for homeowners, and it was hard on us. By doing it every 2 years, the county spreads out the increases, and it's less of a shock to the system. And let's be honest here, the county wants their extra money with the rising value of property. What does a reassessment actually look like for homeowners? Here's the process. The county assessor's office analyzes recent sales data, construction costs, and neighborhood trends across Wake County. This includes neighborhood comparisons and adjustments for features like lot size, upgrades, and the age of the home. They use a mix of data models and in some cases on-site inspections to set a new assessed value for your property. So in January of the reassessment year, you'll get a reevaluation notice in the mail. It lists your home's new assessed value and explains how that value was calculated. An informal appeal is optional. If you think the county overvalued your property, you can request an informal review with the assessor's office. This is usually a phone call, an email, or an in-person meeting, and you can provide evidence such as recent appraisals, sales of comparable homes, or documentations of issues with your property. A formal appeal to the Board of Equalization and Review is if the informal review doesn't resolve the issue, you can file the formal appeal. The Board of Equalization and Review is a local panel appointed to review contested assessments. You'll have the opportunity to present your evidence, and the board can just adjust your value if they agree with your case. Once the appeal is resolved, your reassessed value is final for that cycle, and your tax bill will be updated accordingly. For most people, the reassessment is hands-off. You just get the notice and then see the new value reflected in your tax bill. But it's important to know you do have a say if something looks off here. Tax value and appraised value, or what we would consider current market value, are not the same thing. This trips our buyers and sellers up all the time, so we want to mention that your home's tax value does not always line up with the open market value. And here's why. A home tax reassessment is done by the county government. In Wake County, that's the assessor's office. And the purpose of this is to determine the assessed value of your property for calculating property taxes. The county looks at overall market trends, recent sales, neighborhood comparisons, and property characteristics. They're trying to set a value that is fair for tax purposes, not necessarily what you could sell your home for tomorrow. Tax assessors generally don't do detailed inspections for every property during each assessment cycle. They may inspect a home if it's new construction or if something has changed significantly, but most values are adjusted based on data and algorithms. A home appraisal, on the other hand, is typically done by a licensed appraiser and often hired by a lender when you buy, refinance, or sell a home. The appraisal primarily affects mortgage approval and loan amounts, not your tax bill. The purpose of an appraisal is to determine the market value of the home. What would someone realistically pay for it on the open market right now? Appraisers inspect your home in person. They note upgrades, remodels, energy efficient features, and any special aspects that might increase market value. They account for unique features like a finished basement, a custom kitchen, or a premium lot location. Appraisers carefully analyze recent sales of similar homes in your neighborhood, often looking at homes sold in the last 3 to 6 months. They adjust for differences like square footage, lot size, number of bedrooms and bathrooms, upgrades, and the overall condition of the property. Tax assessors, on the other hand, use a broader data set and often rely on mass appraisal models. They look at overall trends, neighborhood averages, and typical values for certain property types rather than digging into every unique feature. So the key difference between the two is that appraisals are more granular, market-focused, and property-specific, while tax assessments are broader, model-driven by algorithm, and done for tax purposes. Okay, now let's talk about how tax rates are actually determined. Here in North Carolina, property taxes are set up as a local responsibility. So the state of North Carolina doesn't directly set your tax rate. Instead, the state sets the rules and the legal framework for how property taxes work, and then it's up to each county and city government to decide their own rates. Here's how that breaks down. County taxes. Every homeowner in Wake County pays the county rate, which is currently about 52 cents per $100 of assessed value. That rate is set each year by the Wake County Board of Commissioners during their budget process, and county taxes fund services that benefit the entire county, like schools, the sheriff's office, courts, and county libraries, and the social services. For city taxes, if your home is located inside city or town limits, you'll also pay a municipal or city tax. That rate is set by the city council for that particular town or city. Raleigh, Cary, Fuquay, Apex, etc., all of them have a different voting system when they vote on their annual budget. City taxes cover services that the county doesn't provide, like city police departments, fire departments, parks, maintenance inside the city limits, and water and sewer infrastructure. So whether you pay just the county rate or both the county and city rates depends on where your property is inside a town or city boundary. If you live out in unincorporated Wake County, that's just land that's not inside any city limits. You only pay the county portion. Let's look at the different city rates in Wake County right now. In Raleigh, we're looking at 35 cents per $100 of assessed value. In Fuquay-Varina, 35 cents also. Holly Springs is at 34, Angier at 49, Garner at 52, Cary at 34, Apex at 35, and Wendell at 42. Now, why are these numbers so different? It all comes down to two things: services and budgets. Each city sets its own tax rate through its city council, usually during the annual budgeting process. They look at the services they provide, things like police, fire protection, road maintenance, parks and rec, water and sewer, long-term growth projects, and then they decide how much revenue they need to cover those costs. So for example, Cary has a large tax base and historically careful growth planning, which lets them keep their rate a little bit lower. Garner and Angier, on the other hand, have heavily investment in infrastructure and services as they grow, so their rates are higher. Holly Springs and Apex sit somewhere in the middle. They're balancing strong growth and moderate rates. Raleigh, being the largest city, has more revenue sources, but also a higher demand for services, which keeps their rate moderate, but not the lowest. So at the end of the day, the city council members are the ones who vote on and set the property tax rate each year based on the budget they adopt. That's why you'll see differences between even neighboring towns. So when you're shopping for a home, it's not just about the house itself. You're also buying into that community and its services, and your tax bill is going to reflect that. Numbers make this clearer. So let's talk about the current median home price in Wake County is about $480,000. Let's use that round number and run some tax scenarios. If you live in unincorporated Wake County, meaning outside any city limits, you'd pay only the county rate. That works out to about $2,482 a year. So take that same home inside Raleigh city limits and suddenly you're paying county plus city taxes, and that bill jumps to about $4,186 a year. That's a difference of roughly $1,700 every single year just because of your location. And it's not just Raleigh. Let's compare a few others on that same $480,000 home. In Cary, your total would be closer to $4,106. In Garner, with its higher city rate, you're looking at about $4,472. In Holly Springs, it's a little lower, around $4,136. And in Fuquay-Varina, it lands near $4,292. So depending on where you buy, you could be looking at a swing of several $100s every year. Now here's the big question. Does paying only county taxes always mean that you save money? Not necessarily. Living outside the city limits often comes with trade-offs. If you're outside the city limits, you may need to rely on well water or septic systems instead of city water and sewer. And that can save money monthly, but it also means higher maintenance costs when repairs are needed. You'll also need to consider you'll likely pay a third-party trash service for trash pickup and recycling. Out in the county, you'll rely on the sheriff's office instead of a city police department, and often on volunteer fire departments instead of city fire services. Response times and service levels can vary. City limits usually mean more parks, sidewalks, trash pickup, and amenities nearby. In the county, you might need to hire private trash service or drive farther for some services. Some areas just outside city limits eventually get annexed by growing towns, and when that happens, you'll pick up city taxes, but also the city services. So yes, the tax bill itself is lower in the county, but homeowners need to weigh the bigger picture. What services do you want, and what lifestyle are you looking for? For buyers, this is critical. Property taxes directly affect your monthly mortgage payment. If your lender escrows your taxes, even $100 to $150 per month difference can change your buying power, or even how much home you qualify for with your lender. For sellers, it's also important. Buyers relocating to Wake County often compare areas side by side. And while higher taxes won't necessarily kill a deal, they can make a buyer lean towards a neighboring town if everything else looks similar. So if you're selling a home in, say, Garner or Wendell, it's helpful to know how your property taxes stack up against homes in Cary or Apex. That way you can position your home properly and help buyers understand the value they're getting in your community versus the others. Here are a few quick tips to remember. Check your reassessment notice carefully. When those come out every 2 years, review your new value and make sure it seems accurate. If not, you can appeal, and you can usually have a set window to file an appeal after receiving your reassessment notice. Don't delay on that. Even if you think the increase is small, appealing can save you some money. especially on higher valued homes. Also, factor taxes into your home search early. Don't just calculate the mortgage. Look at the full monthly payment with taxes included. You can also ask your real estate agent about specific neighborhoods. Sometimes homes right outside the city limits can mean big savings for you every year. Think long term. Even if a slightly higher tax rate adds $100 per month today, weigh it against the lifestyle and the services that community offers. Sometimes that's worth every penny. Here's the bottom line. Property taxes in Wake County are not one size fits all. Where your home sits and how often the county reassesses, those things can make a huge difference in what you pay. If you're buying, factor this into your budget before you fall in love with a home. And if you're selling, be ready to explain how your community's taxes compare and what value buyers are going to get in return. So if you're thinking about buying or selling in Wake County, whether it's Raleigh, Cary, Apex, Holly Springs, Fuquay, Garner, Wendell, or even out in the country, I'd love to help you understand the numbers and how they play into your bigger home ownership goals. Hit that like button if you found this video helpful. Subscribe for more real estate tips and local insights, and drop a comment below which city's tax rate surprised you the most. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.